So this season, the Memphis Grizzlies have been a pretty solid team, as they're barely out of the playoffs, as they're the 9th seed in the Western Conference with a 23-23 record. But what interests me about the Grizzlies isn't about what they're doing this season. It's more about what their future holds, as I believe the Memphis Grizzlies have a very bright future. So in today's video, I'll be giving you 3 reasons why I believe the Memphis Grizzlies have a bright future. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video to help my channel grow, subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content, and help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers, and comment on this video to start a conversation with me as I respond to all of my comments. And play that intro. The first reason I think the Memphis Grizzlies have a bright future is because of the fact that Memphis is a team with a plethora of good young players who have a lot of potential. We all know they have Morant, who I think has superstar potential, and I think he could very well be the best point guard in the league in the next 5 seasons. They have Jaren Jackson Jr, who has all-star potential as he's a fantastic defender. And I think at his peak, he can be a defensive player of the year level player, as he's a very smart defender and he fits perfectly in the modern NBA, as he's really good at switching onto the perimeter players while being a good rim protector. His biggest weakness has to be his rebounding, since he seems not as aggressive for rebounds as you would want him to be. But on offense, Jaren is really good, as well as he's a good 3-point shooter and he's a good ball handler for a power forward, as well as a good post scorer. Jackson is definitely one of the more underrated young players in the league. The Grizzlies also have Dillon Brooks, who is a solid scorer who can create his own shot at a decent level. The only problem with him is that he takes a lot of difficult shots, which is shown by his 39% from field. Dillon isn't a crazy young player, but I still think he fits in with this team's future as he's only 25. The Grizzlies also have Brandon Clark, who I think will be one of the better role players in the league down the road, as he's a good hustle player who is really good at scoring in the paint, and he's a solid defender and rebounder. He's a swift army knife guy who can be really good right now, but I think he'll be really better down the road. They also have Grayson Allen, who is a guy who nobody likes, but at the end of the day, he's playing like a solid NBA player this season, as he's averaging 10 points while shooting over 40% from 3. In this year's draft, they got a steal in Desmond Bane, who I think could be a really good 3-and-D player, as he's a very good and strong defender, and he's a really good shooter, as he shoots a crazy 44% from 3. D'Anthony Melton has been a solid backup guard, as D'Anthony has been averaging 10 points in only 20 minutes while shooting 44% from 3. Xavier Tillman looks like he could be a solid player as well, as he's just a good overall guy who could be a solid player off their bench. So when you look at the amount of talent Memphis has, in my opinion, they have enough talent where they'll at least be a playoff team for the next few seasons, and probably even better when they all hit their potential. It's actually scary and it's not really talked about. The second reason I think the Memphis Grizzlies have a bright future is the fact that Memphis is already a playoff level team. As don't forget, last season, Memphis was a very surprising team that was the 8th seed for most of the last season. And the only reason why they missed it last season was because Jaren Jackson Jr. got hurt in one of the 8 bubble games. And this season, they've been without Jaren Jackson the whole season. And Morant has missed 8 games this year. So if those guys were completely healthy, I obviously think they would be in the playoffs right now. So to me, it's pretty impressive that this team is already a playoff team and a lot of their key players aren't even fully developed. If they're already a playoff team now with this roster, which is far from the most talented team in the league, I can only imagine how good they will be 2 or 3 seasons from now. Memphis still has a chance to make the postseason this season, as they're only 1 game behind the Mavericks for the 8th seed, and even if they don't catch up to Dallas, they can still make the playoffs via the playoff tournament. So I'm not counting the Grizzlies out. The third reason I think the Memphis Grizzlies have a bright future is literally because they have Morant. Morant is a good enough player to where he can transform your entire franchise just because of how good he is. I think Morant can be the best player on a really good team, and I think he has the chance to be the best point guard in the NBA. I wouldn't bet on him being the best point guard in the NBA, but he definitely could. Nonetheless, he definitely will be a top 5 point guard in the league if he stays healthy, and having a player that good makes it kind of automatic for you to have a good future as long as you surround them with solid players, which is exactly what Memphis is doing. Players like De'Aaron Fox, Karl Anthony Towns, and others are fantastic players who are stuck in bad situations, and in my opinion, their teams are just wasting their prime and stopping the inevitable, which is the fact that they need to be traded. Memphis already looks like they're a solid team, so I doubt they will need to worry about Ja requesting a trade. And as long as he stays on the roster for a decade, they'll always be a solid team, and I doubt they'll be trash like they were before. To conclude the video, I think Memphis has one of the more bright futures in the league, and it's honestly not being talked about enough and at all. And I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is a very, very underrated player, as he's a guy who could be a top 20 player in the league, and no one really talks about him. So Memphis will be really good in the future, but it will come as a surprise to most, but not me. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know what you think about Memphis's future. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content, and help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And comment on this video, start a conversation with me as I respond to all of my comments. And play that intro.